Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CoculesNation. My name is CoculesNation. You can know Cocules. I'm the founder and the director of the Cocules Industry Spy Network at the CoculesNation. Don't mind the live wallpaper. I am using a specified application in a Flatpak form, this one right here, in order to do that. Anyway, it is the evening of Saturday, January 13th, 2024. At the time I am recording this, this is the day I went ahead and upgraded Linux Mint to version 21.3 Virginia. Now, there are quite a few new things when it comes to Mint, and I will get to that in a minute. But for the first part of it, I will go ahead and go through the release notes. This is the code name for 21.3. Now, first things first, the known issues. First things first, the Snap Store. It's still disabled, which is good for me because I don't like using snaps. I don't really want to use snaps as often as other people do, but then again, I have used a couple of snaps on Mint, but I've had to re-enable the Snap Store and whatnot, but nah. Next, into VirtualBox, there are some issues when it comes to VirtualBox. So if you do use VirtualBox, you are going to have to do some of these things. I don't use it, so I should be fine with that. There are some guest editions thing as well, like a CD image, whatever that is. It looks like here there are some issues with home directory encryption, slower than the full disk encryption, which is kind of strange. Mint 20 newer releases, the home directory is no longer unmounted on logout. That is a little bit of a bug with GNOME, it looks like. There's now a guest sessions thing where it's disabled by default. There are some touchpad things, so if you need some touchpad drivers, this is how you can get them. Something called Synaptics. Log out and log back in once that's done. Then installing the EV-Dev. There's now a new Wine installer to install Wine Stable. Now, you would know that I am a proponent of using Wine Staging to do your Windows gaming. I personally use Wine Staging, so I have one recommendation to the Linux Mint team. What about installing other versions like the Staging or the DevL versions and not just the stable? Why would you recommend only Wine Stable? So that doesn't make sense to me, but maybe they've got their reasons and that's completely fine. There are sound and mic issues. You'll need to install Pavu Control. I actually have two versions of it. It's actually down here. This one is the Flatpak version. These two are the actual depackaged stuff from apt. So there's that. Apparently, there is a kernel issue affecting keyboards on Lenovo laptops. Seems to be some weird thing since Ubuntu 2004. Interesting. There is a mouse pointer issue, so you can use this command in order to do something about that. This only has to do with Qt and Flatpak applications. There's a DVD playback issue with VLC. I don't use VLC. It's under device and SR0 as the disk device, if that's an issue. And then there are some others, since 21 is based upon Ubuntu 2204. And then we have a whole butt ton of tips here. Like for example, in the live session, username is mint, password is empty. If you move windows which don't fit in the screen, some windows might not fit into the screen. You can use the Alt key to move it across the screen. That's interesting. You can install multimedia codecs offline. Okay, so it's not bad. So there's an install.sh thing. So there's an archive you can grab. That's interesting. So at least you can do this offline, so that's good. There's some sort of freezing during the boot sequence. This is, I think, with open source drivers. I use the proprietary drivers, so I think that should be okay. There's a no mode set thing you have to do in your BIOS. Then it's some compatibility mode thing. You can use that. Then do no mode set. This is for NVIDIA. You can run the driver manager, choose the NVIDIA drivers, and wait for them to be installed. These will be the proprietary NVIDIA drivers, or if you want to use the false drivers, you can use those. Then if you have an Optimus card, you have nothing more to do. Upon reboot, a system tray icon should show indicating which GPU is active. I think it's actually because this is for those with laptops with Optimus. I don't know what Optimus is. Anyway, let's go into the new features with Linux Mint 21.3. The first things first, new features were added to Hypnotix, the TV viewer application. You can now set channels as favorites. And for the main screen, just click on favorites. I think there's a star icon for that. And then you'll see who is actually doing good in terms of your favorites. You can add a custom channel too. Any URL you can stream, whether it's a live stream or not, can be turned into a custom TV channel. This has to do with IPTV. That's interesting. YouTube DLP also has some updates. Hypnotix uses Leap MPV, which relies on YT DLP to stream YouTube channels. Upstream YT DLP, yada yada yada, all that stuff here. It's now readily easy with Hypnotix, so it's a Hypnotix thing. So it looks like we have some new type of add-ons for Cinnamon. We are on Cinnamon 6.0 now. Something called the Spice. There's a fifth type of Spice now called the Action. This was known as the Nemo Action. And they are add-ons for basically Nemo's right-click menu, right? You right-click an ISO file, look at the context, make bootable USB stick and verify, provided by the mini-stick package. You can download, enable, and rate them like any other Spice, applet, desktop, extension, and Cinnamon themes. And they'll still ship actions which are useful to most people, but that should be okay. I may end up doing some more of this. Now we come to Wayland. Wayland support has finally come in a beta and or alpha format. Okay, this is a beta release. If we take a look at this PNG here, this is running Wayland. This is Clem. But yeah, essentially what's going on here is we have us a little bit of Wayland support. I'd be very cautious about it, but if you are running AMD, I think Wayland should be okay. But if you are running on NVIDIA, I would stay away from Wayland for the time being. Now, they do say here that Wayland will not be replacing Xorg as default anytime soon, not on 21.3 or 22.x, but they do want to be ready just in case. Cinnamon 6 features experimental Wayland support. There's an add-on to start Cinnamon on Wayland. Why did I say Cinnamon? Weird. Wayland session isn't as stable as the default one. There are features it lacks from what I've seen. Yes, I did try the Wayland session. I regressed to 480p because I have a bad EDID with the 535 drivers. So I'm going to have to symlink them to my EDID for the 470, which I have the EDID already. It was added for preview people interested in Wayland to test it and give them feedback. Now there is Wayland development on Trello. You can take a look at that if you want. There's a GitHub repository for issues related to Wayland, so that's kind of fine. Wayland support will not be fully ready to be a better Cinnamon option for most people before 26. So that'll be Mint 23. That'll be Ubuntu 26.04. 2 years to identify and fix all the issues, yada yada yada. Now we've got some good stuff. 75% scaling is back. This has to do with fractional scaling. They have window opacity key binding That has come back in 21.3. Stylus buttons can be disabled, so if you have styluses and you want the buttons disabled, go ahead and do that. You should be good there. This is probably for like the OS players who seem to click. This is probably a good idea for OS players if you play OS. Monitor used for notifications is now configurable. That's interesting. I've never heard of that. Menu apps can be edited with right-click and properties. Menu apps? Huh. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I didn't see that. But yeah, this is actually in the menu. Nice. You can now do a desktop zoom action. You can specify when an action is triggered. Shift middle click action is a sound applet. Then there's a grouped window list. New option to not show anything when hovering an app button. So I think this has to do with probably tooltips. I think it's a tooltip thing. Warpinator, if you use that, you can now connect to another device manually by entering the IP or on mobile by scanning a QR code. But I do not use Warpinator, whatever that is. I think that's actually on my machine. Yeah, it's basically like sync thing, I think. The Notes app receives support for debus commands. This is sticky. I think I actually have it on the machine as well. I think it's this one. This is sticky. Oh yeah, I think this is sticky. I do not want that. What I want is about. It's just called Notes. I don't know if sticky is the actual app for it or not. I'm not entirely sure. There's a file renaming tool called Bulky. It receives support for thumbnails and drag and drop now. Apparently they didn't have that. There's Slick Greeter. The login screen, the alignment of the login box is configurable now. It's in Slick Greeter. I've never heard of that, I think. There's video playback, taking the video orientation into account, rotating it in Pix. Apparently that wasn't an issue either. Mint Backup now features a header bar and an about dialog. Mint Backup? Here's the backup tool. I think this is what I was talking about. Oh yeah, it's basically like, I guess the home directory version of Timeshift. So that's fine. We are on version 2.4.4 this time. And then a color picker was added to XApp XDG desktop portal. Desktop portal, huh? They didn't have that originally. I never knew. Now we do have a collection of backgrounds for the artwork. Now it looks like 21.3 has the 515 kernel and 2204 package base. And that shouldn't be too bad. But otherwise, yeah. So let's take a look at the desktop backgrounds. I've got Vanessa, I've got Victoria, I've got Virginia. These are the new ones now. All of these are actually supposed to be really good. We have this temple by Zhang Kaiyi. This is a temple, what looks to be in China. Actually, that looks kind of cool, not gonna lie. I believe this is a similar temple or the same temple in China, also by the same guy. And there's a moon in the background. That looks kind of cool, not gonna lie. I'll do a couple more. This is also in China. These are rice paddies, actually, in China. These are what looks to be some sort of rice paddy thing. There are some houses over there. Gorgeous picture, actually. I think this is a Chinese sunrise? I think it's a Chinese sunrise. Looks kind of cool. Very beautiful, too. We've got one in Slovenia. We got something in Iceland. I think this is a puffin. Yeah, this is a puffin in Iceland. We have a picture in Slovenia. Here's a sunset. I don't know where the sunset is. It looks like America based upon the little power thing over there. Here's Tuscany in the Italian mountains. This is in Romania. We have this lone little tree. I actually had a similar picture of like a lone tree. I had that, I think, in a video on my second channel, linked below if you want to check that out. I do not know why I have two of these. Instinct, I guess. Here's snow. This is where trees have been absolutely capsized. This is the wet type of snow as well. This is a picture taken in Morocco by Mohamed Nakhasi. Of course, I will probably have butchered it. Here's light. This is kind of a more technical light sort of deal. I don't know where this is taken, if it's taken in area at all. Here's a sky by Malek Puiniki. I've definitely butchered that. I think I actually don't know where this is. Here's Sicily in Italy. Kind of a cool picture. There's a path. And here's Switzerland. Over here, I think is a path also in Switzerland. Picture taken by Timon Studler. I think I'm actually going to be using these rice patties in China. And that's where I'm going to be ending the video for today. Thank you, and good night.